I can't believe it myself. Suddenly I'm up on top of the world. It should have been somebody else. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free. Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.
You know, I'm just so glad that William Catt didn't really die at the end of Carrie, and in fact encountered an alien who gave him a suit, who helped him become a superhero. Andy, aren't you?
I feel like give is strong, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Give is right.
He
Man, that
gave
was-
it the same way that Hal Jordan was given a ring.
This is true. This is true. Andy, this is off day, Ballpark Nation. We're going to go heavy into some Longhorn stuff. I have some thoughts, as you can imagine, on the game, and it's not all doom and gloom. You know, clearly I'm wearing the shirt. In fact, I picked my most Longhorny shirt for today, in part because I believe, Andy, that you're teaching students who throw away loyalties like nothing, that integrity matters and being loyal matters or something.
And plus, you said the word horny, which is, I mean, some people are going to see it and get there. Believe me.
Yeah, I didn't really
You're a
think
handsome
about that.
man.
You know, obviously, there's a lot to talk about. I think we can now talk about having an Arch Manning problem. But before I get into that, I do want to start by giving a little bit of credit to Florida. They were averaging 5.9 yards a carry running the ball before the game started. However, they ran it more yesterday or Saturday against us than they did against Miami and LSU combined. They just, for whatever reason, were not running the football, which I think Texas was not therefore prepared for them to run the football, and they ran it right at us, and it was dominating. And it makes you wonder, if you're a Florida fan, you're kind of irritated because you haven't been running the ball at all. So I think that and the combination of adding that wide receiver back is a little bit of why Texas looked underprepared, particularly defensively at the beginning of the game.
Well, I think that it's highly possible that Florida's coaching staff, and I loathe to give them any credit because they did some really weird-ass things in this game, and frankly, Napier's staff has done weird coaching things the entire tenure that he's been there. The fact that he doesn't seem to understand how clocks work is a thing. But they clearly saw a weakness between the center and your guard gaps, and were able to run the ball effectively up the middle, which is the first time we've seen anybody do that this season on Texas, and really for the last couple of seasons. Your defense isn't the same as it was last year. It's still very, very good, regardless of what happened Florida. But it did seem like Florida had new wrinkles that, for whatever reason, Pate K, I apologize to my Polish brother, but I'm not going to pronounce his name right, seemed unprepared for. And I think that it could also be a little bit of a situation where, even though it's a conference game, even though it's Florida, even though it's in the swamp, Florida fans aren't going to hear this. Your entire fan base is geared towards next week. And this had all the markings of a trap game on it. And that kind of came to fruition as you predicted kind of last week.
Yeah, I mean, I had not a great feeling about it. You know, I'm a big fan of Josh Pate. And it was sort of funny to watch him start naming members of our fan base on Twitter who were going after him for having the audacity to pick Florida. I definitely had a bad feeling about it. I knew Florida was good defensively, and we'll obviously get there because that is another thing I was worried about in August when I didn't think we'd win the national championship. So, I do think that there was a little bit of unprepared because they went against the tendencies of what they've done. I think that version of Florida can win a lot of games, actually, if they are able to control the ground.
Well, all of that to be said, Florida played out of their minds and they only won by a possession.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Arch and the offense had woken up 2 series earlier, we might be talking about a different outcome in a near miss kind of thing rather than a big upset. but it is what it is. Football is, I think, unlike baseball, is one of the things that what happens on the field is really what happened. It's not like you got baseballed. No, you got beat.
There's no third thing that's occurring.
Right. And it's not like you're playing a series of games where you're worried about the next 2 games in the same series and saving your bullpen or any of those kind of things. It is, you put your best effort out. It didn't work out this weekend.
Yeah. Would you be surprised to find out, though, if there was some split time over the last 2 weeks of them starting to prepare for Oklahoma?
Oh, not at all. Because I think that there's a couple of things in your donor base, and I'm completely discounting the online fans because your online fans are insane. Our online fans are insane, although there's fewer of them because they all congregate around Texags so they can be racist.
Oh, God. I'm sorry.
They love that behavior there. I mean, clearly because they don't stop it. So enjoy. I even forgot what I was saying. No. The donor base in your world, though, especially the big hitters, there's 2 games you guys can't lose without there being consequences.
Sure.
One of those is A&M, now renewing that series, but the constant has always been Oklahoma. If you lose Oklahoma consistently, you're going to be looking for a job, regardless of what happens anywhere else. And I think that any coach in that position is aware of that. So Sark absolutely should have been, or probably was, having some time split with preparing. I think the other big problem beyond all of the trap games and all the other mind stuff going on is that your offensive line is just not very good.
All right, let's get into that, because part of the thing, if you remember going back, I was worried about the offensive line going back to July when we started talking about football seriously. It's why I felt like they were going to win the national championship, because it was an almost all new offensive line. I don't doubt its talent, but it takes time to work together. There's that, but there's also me reading that apparently the big guy coming out of the portal from USC that went to Oregon wanted to come to Texas, but apparently we would not meet his NIL quote, which to me upsets me, because what's the one advantage Texas has over just about everybody? Money.
Still got a budget.
Yeah, I guess
groceries get more expensive every week, Jim.
I am focused, I'm sure. So, but that was part of my thing. I was shocked though at how inept they looked. There are times where one of the guards would pull up to square up to block, and there was literally no one in front of him because they stunted around him and he wasn't paying attention. It was shocking.
There was a couple things I saw where you had pulling guards blocking each other. That's a thing. But I think the biggest thing to me is that Florida had the worst pursuit metrics towards a quarterback in their first 4 games of any Division I team, and certainly any Power 4 team, and were consistently in the backfield and harassing Arch all game. That's something they haven't been able to do all season. And they walked through that offensive line that you guys put out on the field like a sieve more often than not. And I don't care what struggles, and I know I probably defend Arch harder than some of your fan base does. I don't care what quarterback you have back there. You can have Tom Brady back there. You can have Joe Montana back there. But if your offensive line doesn't give you time to set your feet and throw the ball, you're not going to be successful. And it's hard to evaluate. Arch has his issues. I don't think he's seeing the field real well right now. But
he missed throws that changed the game.
If you are on your back or running for your life constantly, I don't know how much of that's on you when your offensive line isn't pulling their weight. Having said that, we can talk about Sark and his stubbornness about running certain things. And, I think there's a way to do the Sark offense and still play to Arch Manning's strengths, and they haven't gotten there yet. If I were the Mannings, I would love to see more designed runs, more quick hitters out to the flat. He doesn't have time behind that line to throw deep ball after deep ball after deep ball.
It seems like he's still trying to run this slow developing offense without personnel to run one, when it seems like they need to be going. I mean, they need to be spreading it out more. I think they need to be, like you're saying, running more quick. Like like last year, the screen game was dominant for Texas. Where's the screen game? It's not even there.
Yeah, and that is the kind of thing that would play to his strengths. And for whatever reason, they just don't. It'll be interesting to see what changes this week. Because, I know I've talked about, and we've talked about, I don't think coaches really hold back the playbook, but there's always something different about the game in Dallas, beyond the fact that you take your life into your own hands by driving to Fair Park. But once you get there, you're surrounded by corny dogs, not the recalled kind. Not even any LSU fans there. So while you smell corn dogs, it's just a natural smell. It's not a thing that coming over from the Sabine.
Yeah.
But something's got to change because I don't see your offensive line getting dramatically better over these the last half of the season. The personnel is not going to get better. There's not some guy hiding at the end of the bench that's going to come in and save you at left tackle or something like that.
Do you think the problem is more than just they're not used to playing together? Do you think there's a talent deficiency?
I think the pieces don't mesh, because you would think that you'd see progress over these games, especially the 3 kindergarten schools that you played between Ohio State and Florida. Can they get better? Yes, but they're so far behind. I mean, what we saw Saturday, they're so far behind being adequate that I don't know that there's enough time left in the season for them to get good. And as an A&M fan, I'm hoping that's true towards the end of the season. I hope you all have given up and just quit. I don't need to see a good game.
Yeah, no, totally. The Arch Manning thing, I was talking to a guy on Twitter, and he was his thought was there's no chance Arch gets benched or gets replaced because the university has too much invested in him and the donors have too much money invested in him to keep him on the field. And I say this because one of the things I don't ever do, man, I don't listen to reports coming out of spring camp because it's usually nothing but I did some deep dives, and there were reports coming out in July that Caldwell was ahead of Arch in the offense, running the same offense. Mm-hmm. And then he did come in all cold off the thing and threw on time into a receiver who was able to then get yards after the catch, which was something we have not seen this offense do with Arch at quarterback. So do you think there's more than just Sark really believes he's the best quarterback for this team right now, and that's why he's playing?
Oh, I think there's constantly politics when you're talking about a job like the University of Texas starting quarterback. You can go even recent history to Sims versus Applewhite.
Yeah.
The boosters have an outsized role in the program, and in the world of NIL, I can't imagine that's gotten better because NIL dollars are coming from those boosters. Boosters are determining who is playing because why would I invest money in a guy that's not going to play? It's a pretty simple supply and demand kind of thing. I don't think it's as much as, and I forget his name, the little guy that runs your athletic program, FT, your chief donor. He's a little guy. He's cute. He's a little guy, little rich guy. So it makes him taller, I think. That's how that works.
I believe that is how that works, actually.
I don't think it's to the point where he's saying Arch Manning is the starter no matter what, but I think that just human nature is going to tell you there's a lot of dollars, there's a lot invested in getting Arch Manning to campus, keeping Arch Manning on campus. And even though the Manning camp is saying all the right things, the financial opportunities that are available as the starting quarterback at the University of Texas is a big carrot for a lot of guys. You can say that the Mannings don't need the money. Well, Arch doesn't get Cooper's money, as far as I can tell, at least not till Cooper dies. That's usually how families work. So Arch would probably like to have his own money. Ultimately, though, he's got to start performing. I think he's got a really long leash. I mean, unless he just completely craters. And the thing about Arch, he will give you just enough of a taste, even in a bad game, to go, that's what we've been waiting for. That pass to Wingo in the third quarter, I think, was beautiful. And you would sit as a Texas fan and go, why? I'm scratching my head. Why am I not seeing that all game long? And I think it just comes down to the offensive line is so bad and the play calling is a little bit suspect for the talent that you have that it's impossible to get a good gauge on what Arch does well and just keep doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that there's cover. I mean, obviously, you and I are smart enough to be able to watch and say, well, actually, we've seen him still skip easy throws to people, and we've still seen him. I mean, they did the one screen they did run was almost a backwards pass fumble because it short hopped the receiver. So,
Sure.
You know, they
the other side of that is that with no run game, all a defense has to do is just tee off on Arch. And your run game, again, another victim of the offensive line, hasn't been enough to carry the team. Not like it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it just seems like what you need is somebody that can, you know, because like obviously I'm used to watching some Texas teams with no run game. 09 was one of those where the run game really was quick wide receiver screens to Jordan Shipley. Like that was the 1st and 10. We need 4 yards. This is what we're going to do. I almost think that the Longhorns need to go back to something like that. So that way you can loosen up the box a little bit and then maybe find a run game. You might have to start passing to set up the run.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. If you can do that with Jordan Shipley, who is a great college receiver, why can't you do that with Ryan Wingo? Why can't you do that with Livingston?
No.
Who I'm glad his knee didn't get blown out because it looked like for all the world that it had.
Sure, it sure did. No, and that's a great question because the only time you see them trying to, it seems like the only time they're getting the ball to Wingo in particular is either a 15-yard out, which they don't have time to set up, or a reverse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like for what is supposed to be the best, most imaginative play caller in college football, these play calls have neither been very good nor very imaginative this year.
I have nothing to add to that. I think you said it perfectly.
I mean, and that said, like they're still favored to beat Oklahoma, and they're still projected to beat Oklahoma. And I don't.
You got a quarterback with a broken thumb that you're going to face because he's all man.
Yeah, well, I think Venables has ruled him out, but even still, then they pounded that guy last year. I don't believe the defense. I keep going back to the defense. Ohio State's a much better team than Florida, and that defense held Ohio State to 14 points. One of those touchdowns they handed to them. I don't think they're going to get ran over by Oklahoma the way they got ran over by Florida. And if you can just have somebody that can manage the damn game, then you can go win.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, this was an Oklahoma team that struggled against Auburn. I mean, they won with the help of some referee calls that were so bad that the SEC actually apologized for them. But they were in a dogfight with Auburn. Yeah, this is an Auburn team that A&M practically shut out. I mean, I know they scored 10 points, but I think they had 172 yards of offense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not obviously there's still a lot of season left. And I think, you know, it's funny because my hope for the season was never a national championship. So to me, I just want the team, like I always felt like this should have been the year to put things together. I read something very interesting that there's thought, you know, and obviously we can't do anything, but Quinn coming back last year actually maybe prevented Arch from being able to grow with a much more talented team around him. And now he has to be the best player on the field, and has no experience.
Yeah. And see, part of my struggle with that is when you are a university with unlimited athletic funds, and we can pretend that there's a budget, but there's not. Arch has been on campus for 2 years prior to starting this season. What were they doing with him? I get that game experience can't be duplicated in practice, but
well, you know what Jessica would say? Jessica would say overcoming the fact that he played high school football at 3A in Louisiana and that he wasn't near ready.
I mean, I don't doubt that, but is that what you've gotten out of 2 years? I mean, that's – I would be concerned that if you don't come to – based on what I've seen, if you don't come into the starting role as Quinn Ewers with kind of this idea that you know what you're doing and you're learning an offense versus learning what I'm doing and also learning an offense. And I think that's kind of the difference between the two. There's a reason. I don't think that Ewers coming back stunted Manning as much as Ewers came back last year because he knew he was going to be the starter because there's no way Manning was starting over him.
That is the other thing. Like, clearly Sark felt like an injured Quinn Ewers was a better option than Arch Manning last year.
Yeah. And I think that's your fan base can gripe about it. And I know they were last year. Why weren't we playing Manning? Manning should be playing. Ewers can't. All the stuff about Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers clearly was a better quarterback than last year, even injured, than Arch Manning has been so far this year, playing, virtually the same schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously we'll have a lot to talk about when we start previewing OU coming up. A&M did have what was a really cool experience to watch.
It's talking about the eye patch.
Well, the eye patch is badass. First of all, Reveille has an eye patch. You know what I think too, Andy? I think Mike Leach down from heaven, the Pirate of West Texas, is smiling at the idea of Reveille having an eye patch.
I've been resisting buying any A&M merch just because of superstitions and stuff, but there is a T-shirt with Reveille with the eye patch on that I might have to be purchasing.
Oh man, I might need to get one of those just to have it. I think it's badass.
Saturday for me was it's a nice way to put this. It was like watching a R.C. Slocum A&M football game, and those of us of a certain age who are A&M fans will remember that most of our first halves looked like the first half against Mississippi State. You're kind of winning. You might be behind by a little bit, but you're going to go in up maybe a score. It's not going to be high scoring, and then eventually you wear out a team.
Yeah, that was definitely A&M has way more talent than Mississippi State, and they just threw it at them. They just wore them down.
For me, that's what I saw on Saturday. It was a team that was content to Marcel Reed connecting on passes is a different conversation, but it was a team that was content to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball until they just were able to impose their will on a Mississippi State team who plays hard but doesn't have a lot of depth.
Right.
And so by the third quarter, especially the fourth quarter, we were to the point of imposing our will from an offensive standpoint on them. And I think that's what reminded me a lot of the R.C. Slocum days. Not that we also threw forward passes, which was different than what we did during the R.C. Slocum days. The Gulf Coast offense is still undefeated unless it beats itself, which is something we did a lot. But I think it was a step in the right direction because this is certainly a game that A&M could have looked past. They have looked past in the past. I think we're now 7-5 against Mississippi State since we moved to the SEC. Mississippi State has always been a team that's kind of been a thorn in our side a little bit. And it was good to see them take care of business, even if it was closer than anybody wanted to see in the first half. All of that being said, what I'm most enthused about is the way the defense has now just shut down two Division I opponents. Now, I'm not claiming Auburn's a great team. I'm not claiming Mississippi State's going to be a great team by the end of the year. But to control the game the way the defense controlled the game and those two, it gives your offense time to get in the flow of the game.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think you're going to have games like Auburn where the defense or offense, for whatever reason, can't get the ball in the end zone, can't score points. The defense kept them in that game. The defense kept that game under control until Marcel Reed and the offense could figure things out in the second half. But it was A&M fans love their defense, and we're, I think, cautiously optimistic about the idea that this defense, the way it's playing right now, will be able to play with anybody on the schedule they have remaining.
Totally, yeah. One of the things you had been worried about this defense was the interior run defense from the beginning of the season. Now, does Florida looking like they're going to be able to throw some five-star running talent, offensive line and running back at you, concerned? Like if Florida has the same game plan against us they have against you, does that give you concern about the game?
Without getting a bunch of your fan base on my case, I don't think, based on what I've seen so far, that Florida will be able to run up the middle with the success they had against you guys. And that's more of a scheme thing. But our interior defensive line has played better than I have expected them to. Even with Notre Dame, who is a very good running team, most of those runs were to the outside and off tackle. They weren't able to run through the middle of the defense. It'll be interesting to see with Webster, I think his name is, their receiver that they got back, Webster, some W name, who we have covering him, because Des Ricks has played as well as any DB in the SEC so far. And that's my guess is who will be covering him. But one of the things I really like about the way the A&M defense has played is that they are multiple in what they're showing quarterbacks and able to confuse. I don't think DJ, and we can sit here a week from now and DJ Lagway has thrown 5 touchdowns on us. Yeah. If he is as one-dimensional as he was against you guys, though, where he can't run, where he's basically a statue and was limping by the middle of the first quarter, I think it's very easy to get them down to being a team that can only do one thing and then defending that one thing. So that's where I'm hoping our defense continues what they've done the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think I would only get pause if I were an A&M fan.
We're not looking ahead to Arkansas.
I bet you're not. I think the only thing that would give me pause is Mississippi State did run it against you guys at the beginning, and I just think they're going to have better horses at Florida. So,
yeah, if you're looking for a script to beat A&M right now or to score points, I would say tempo, because what they were, I think Mississippi State, I think it was their second possession, they were able to march down the field and run the ball with big clips, partly because of our defensive personnel and partly because they were running tempo and we just didn't react well to it. That was the one time they were able to do it consistently, though. So I think you're always going to have a series like that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it happened where it didn't really affect the game. You were able to hold them to a field goal. But, yeah, Florida's definitely a step up from Auburn and Mississippi State, but you kind of like the way the schedule shapes up that way. If every team's a little bit better than the one you played, you're also stepping up in competition.
Yeah, and I do think A&M has a very favorable schedule going forward after. Like, I do think the Florida game will be tougher than we both thought. And maybe that's just me taking some copium, but you're not going to have a problem with Arkansas. I guess LSU could be a challenge, Missouri, but I think it lines up for you guys to be in the SEC championship.
Hey, don't scoot past Arkansas because it's Bobby Petrino's show, and he's evidently going to coach the entire team by himself because he's just firing assistant coaches left and right. Because they were really good on defense, so obviously you get rid of all your defensive. They were horrible on defense, and you got rid of your defensive coaches. Good job.
Although it'd be kind of funny if he does turn it around and this was all one big plot to get him the job again.
There is a lot of chatter that he's been campaigning for Pittman's job since he got on campus last year. And I think it finally came to fruition. I don't think he's the guy next year, but if he wins a few games, Arkansas fans love their past. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Well, it's all they've got. I mean, remember the Arkansas high point of their program is losing the national championship to us in 1970. Like, that is the pinnacle of Arkansas football right there.
Yeah, I've always thought that was a little weird, too. I get the importance of the game of the century and Nixon declaring y'all national champions after winning that game in the, before bowls or whatever. But because why do rules matter anymore? They just don't. But it's always been odd to me that they were considered kind of the class of the SEC or the Southwest Conference at that time frame, and you look back and they really didn't do all that much in the Southwest Conference.
I think you're totally right.
The other good part about, before we move on, the other good part about A&M's victory this weekend is that Blake Shapen used to be a Baylor quarterback, so he's salty and had this whole Baylor chip on his shoulder about not getting recruited by A&M, blah, blah, blah. This is why he didn't get recruited by A&M.
Well, yeah, I thought his whole behavior was interesting because he was the weak point for that offense. But he was on his sideline yelling at his offensive linemen and his running backs. And I'm like, well, you got time to throw, and y'all were running the football. You were just not very good.
It's leadership, Jim. You yell.
Apparently.
Rah, rah.
apparently. But yeah, I think another successful blackout.
At least he didn't rape anybody.
And that is honestly a step in the right direction for any former Baylor football player. I guess last question on college football before we move on real quick. At what point is there a point at the end of the year where we describe Sark's seat as hot?
No, because I think you've got 2 playoff appearances to book on. I don't think this year is that year. Where are you at? 9-3 right now?
If they win out 9-3, yeah.
But
So
is that what you're figuring?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like 9-3, and I still think 9-3 can get you an appearance in the SEC championship, depending on where those losses fall. Like if you beat Georgia or whatever. So I still only see Georgia as I'm going to pencil that in as a lost game right now. Of course, they play like they did Saturday, then they might not win another game. So it's all over the place.
So, but let's just, before we get to Georgia and A&M, let's just say that you end up 8-4, 9-3. I don't think those records with a new offensive line and Arch Manning's first year get Sark on the hot seat. But I think it's a concern for next year. Sark will be the coach at the beginning of next year unless he leaves. And he's proven that the NFL is not a great place for him. He's not going anywhere. If next year starts off poorly, and I haven't looked at who you open with or any of that kind of stuff. I don't think you have an Ohio State on your calendar this year.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Or next year. It could be a concern next year because your fan base is fickle.
Yeah.
You had a string of 10 and 11 game, 10 and 11 wins.
We have Ohio State again next year. It's at home.
10 and 11 game seasons under Mac Brown, and that was never enough. And I get that it was because, he only took that step one time with the amount of talent advantage he had. But I think you've got a fan base who, especially in this world where they're pumping a lot of money into the program, are going to want quicker results. Again, I don't think this year's the issue, but next year could be.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at the non-conference schedule next year, Ohio State is on it. It's a home game. But yeah, I mean, Texas has done a pretty good job.
It's not the first game of the year, is it?
Second.
Okay, that's better.
But no, Texas, they've done a good job of in 27, it's Michigan, then it's Notre Dame, then it's Notre Dame again. And then after that, there's no non-conference big schedule starting in 2030. But they've done a pretty good job of building a non-conference schedule, mostly because they had to overcome the weakness of the Big 12, right? So they had to.
Yeah, and in 2030, you're going to get in line with the rest of us trying to get Northwestern on your schedule.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so is there a world where Eli and Peyton and Cooper and Arch all take a look and see, wow, this offense that Sark runs doesn't really fit Arch Manning. We need to get him to a smaller school where he can blow things up and still get drafted. You see that's a world that could happen.
I mean, everything's possible in this world. There's just some things that are improbable. I don't think Arch and Eli or Archie or Peyton, Eli, or Archie are going to meddle publicly in any situation, mainly because they have dollars tied to their brand. And being the meddlesome uncles and grandfather aren't going to play well with that brand. Cooper's a different story, but I don't think there's a victory for Arch going anywhere else at this point, because it's not like he's going to play behind with a better group of players talent-wise at a different school, especially if it's a smaller school. He's not going to go to Sam Houston State and put up 5,000 yards a game, and the NFL is going to go, oh, well, it was just Texas was the problem.
But just to be devil's advocate, Garrett Gilbert went to SMU and did that and had a 5 or 7 year NFL career.
Sure, but I think the Manning household believes that Arch should have a much longer career than 5 or 7 years
and not as a perennial backup.
As a backup. Believe me, that's the best job in the world. Yeah. Nobody would turn down that job.
Right.
You play one preseason game and then you sit the entire time. It's fantastic. The paychecks keep coming.
Yeah. All you got to do is hope you don't sprain your clipboard carry in hand.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think unless something dramatic happens, and even then there'll be enough clamor for Arch to go someplace. I would be worried about Arch in a Oregon kind of offense if I were an opponent, because they do quick hitters. They do creative things. They do have an offense that feels like it's more geared towards him. But I also think there's a lot invested on both sides for Arch Manning and Texas and those brands together. And it's a weird thing to talk about when you're talking about football, but that matters. That relationship's going to stay unless something goes really, really, really sour.
Do you think
that'd be my guess?
No, I mean, I think you're right. And honestly, like, if that is the case, I still believe in his talent. And to me, if he up and transfers, well, then that does make this year a waste. If they take the beating and they gel together, and then, like, again, I never thought they were in the national championship this year. I thought everything about was overhyped from the beginning. I thought there were going to be growing pains with all of it. It's just it's one thing if they go 8-4, but everybody comes back next year. Well, then you should be the favorite to win the national championship the next year, if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the college football, pro football for that matter, are littered with teams that had a young offensive line that didn't play well, and after a year of playing well, got good. It's not a talent deficiency with your OL. It is purely an experience thing at this point, and that could be overcome. It could be overcome this season. Based on what I've seen so far, they're so far behind that I don't know that they get good in 6 more games.
No.
But yeah, this could be a reloading year. And I don't think that the fan base is going to necessarily hold that against Sark. You guys can't afford 2 reloading years in the row we're going to keep this coach.
Well, maybe Elko will keep getting better and we'll just hire him.
Sure. That's a thing. From what I've heard from Tom Hart and other ESPN through all sports, the only reason players go to A&M is because they couldn't get in Texas.
I know. And I don't know. I was so impressed with that environment, that the blackout thing. It was like I said on Twitter. You know how we are over here. We are incredibly religious when it comes to not changing the uniform ever. But that was a very cool environment to watch.
18-year-olds love it.
No, and that's exactly. And I told you. I mean, we're just going to talk about the same thing. Like the kids, like for as much as Oregon irritates me with never knowing what they're going to wear, the kids love it. And
well, and I can tell you from our fan base last year, there was grumbling, and the administration didn't want to support it because tradition. The players wanted it, so they did it, and they beat LSU. And now we're 2-0 in all black uniforms. And you saw the end zones are black, and the logo was black, and the yell leaders all wore black uniforms. Thank God they didn't wear blackface, because I was kind of halfway expecting that. You said blackout. That's what we know.
We thought you meant kick all the blacks out. I didn't know.
I mean, that's possible. So everybody but the core participated. They were still in their core block in their fatigues. But not fatigues, dresses. Dress khaki.
Technically, if you were to use a military equivalent, they're a Class B uniform.
Yeah, whatever the ROTC version of that is, that's what that is.
Yeah.
So next year I see them having things, but we're 2-0 in all black, whatever, and that's the biggest tradition we care about. We're 2-0. We're going to do it again next
year. I would be careful with putting the core in all black, because then if they add goose stepping, then it's just a bad look all the way around.
I mean, for the 5% that actually commission, they probably wouldn't do that. Although in what's going on with Pete Texas military, who knows what'll be
All I
required.
know is I saw a lot of women in the Corps, and that's not okay, man. Not anymore,
Hey,
buddy.
there are
Not on
probably
his
some fat
watch.
guys. There are probably some fat guys in there too.
Probably some fatties and some. Although I did read that about 60% of the active duty force is considered overweight by the military, and that's a problem. Like that is a problem. I think obviously
But you also can't talk about fitness for duty and then roll out. I'm sorry, 6'3", 175-pound Trump right after that.
No, you cannot. Oh boy. Before we head out, the Astros still have a manager. We think it's weird to you that Jim Crane has been completely crickets because that's not his style.
I hate to give in to internet rumors, but I think there's got to be some truth to the fact that he would like to have a conversation with a manager who is currently managing in the playoffs before any decision on going forward is made. Because you're absolutely right. Jim Crane would have given his State of the Union by now. He has every other season. He hasn't had a media availability since spring training.
The spring training, yeah.
Which is a little bit odd for him. I don't think that Dana Brown's contract the option hasn't been picked up yet. So there's that. But I really do think that there is a conversation that he would like to have, and that is pending however the ALDS works out.
What has shocked you what was the bigger overratedness, the Longhorn football team or the Yankee baseball team? Because oh my God, they got their shit pushed in.
I am really feeling very good about good things that happened for George Springer. As I talked about this weekend, he is the golden era guy that I miss the most. And I don't have any regrets about us not keeping him or anything like that, because this year notwithstanding, he hadn't been worth the money that he's been being paid.
Totally.
But if he picks up a second ring in a couple weeks, that's not going to upset me at all. And I
shit over the first ring if you get it. Don't be like, I finally have one that matters. Just
he wouldn't. I don't think that's him, and I really hope that's not him, especially since some people were heavier users of that system than others. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But no, and we can finally be right because we've been picking Toronto to win the AL East for a decade.
Yeah, I was talking to our friend Mike Donis, and I was like, I know you're heavy into editing, but do you see what your Blue Jays are doing? And he's like, I'm really heavy into editing. I was like, well, just check it out, please. Oh my God.
But yeah, nothing makes me happy. The only thing that would make me happier is the same thing happening to the Dodgers. I don't know that the Phillies are up to that, but
no, they had their opportunity. Did Detroit blow their opportunity, or hey, you're supposed to get one of the first two, and you did that, and you're moving on?
No, they've got the next 3 at home, right?
I think they have the next two
at home. Sorry,
they come back one, but they will get Skubal again in Game 5 on regular.
Yeah, and that game was not on Skubal. I know he gave up 2 home runs to Polanco, and Polanco's a great story in the postseason. Good for him. But Skubal did nothing wrong. The offense just didn't get on track soon enough.
Castillo tried to give it to him too.
Yeah. The bad news for Seattle, and I say that knowing that they've been incredibly hot pretty much for the last 2 months of the season, month and a half of the season, is that they are not as good a team on the road as they are at home, and they lost one at home.
And Comerica Park is not an offense, will not help their offense.
No, I don't think it will. I don't think Josh Naylor going out on paternity leave is going to help their offense either.
Okay, so am I being an asshole when I say that's ridiculous that he's leaving? Like, again, I understand that I'm a callous to it because my only child was born while I was deployed, and I don't think I met her until she was at least 3 months old.
So this used to not be a thing, and then I think the first time I became really aware of it was when the Oilers were still in Houston, and there was an offensive lineman who missed, David McWilliams, I believe, missed a game because his wife gave birth. And the Oilers coaching staff lost their minds because you don't miss games for any reason. We all have children. We don't see them. I could see both sides of this, and I don't know the situation by this birth. It could be a problem that they've had, trying to have children or something like that. It
At-risk pregnancy?
it
We
could
don't
be a
know.
high-risk pregnancy. I had no idea what's going on. It does on the surface, though, seem a little bit odd. It's not a regular season series. It's not a midweek series against the Rangers or the Royals. It's literally the playoffs, and if
Game
you don't
3.
win, if you don't win, you're not going to be playing anymore. That strikes me as a little bit weird.
It's even different if you won the first 2 games in Seattle.
And I think there's a difference too, that baseball players know what their schedule looks like in general. And so there are a lot of them that will schedule their activities, let's say, to have the babies in the off season. Now, maybe if you're playing in Arizona, when you started the season, you didn't think you were going to make the playoffs, so it didn't matter.
I was thinking about Verlander having to leave right after the World Series in 2017 to go to his wedding because he just didn't think he would be in the World Series because he was with Detroit.
But there's a lot of players that start whatever 9 months from November is, and that's when you go.
That's when you get after it. Well, okay, so yeah, just to give you a little bit more backdrop, the last story that Brian McTaggart posted on Astros.com was October 3rd. So there's been nothing out of Astros camp, and we are what? I mean, it's only been 3 days, but you would think
It's been a week. It's been a week since they played their last game because I was, reflexively looking for baseball.
Yeah.
About 1:00 yesterday, and it was not.
Yeah. Well, Astros fans, as I did with my graphic, if you have something to do this October, read my new Christmas novel, A Chance of Snow.
Let's see. And then from a pop culture standpoint, I saw the Smashing Machine this weekend.
Hey, how was that?
I give you 2 things. I think you understand, and based on your career, that you can be a actor who does a fantastic thing in a mediocre movie.
Sure.
That's a thing. That's how I would classify Dwayne Johnson's performance. I think he did an incredible job of not being The Rock, of actually emoting, of actually being an actor. And I think by far, this is his best performance as an actor. The movie itself was paced really strangely.
Okay.
And if you like Benny Safdie movies, I guess that it'll be something that you enjoy. But it was slow for me. It was depressing for me. Emily Blunt's cleavage being pressed all in my face was not depressing for me, but that's a whole different
The Lord
thing.
give it.
Yeah. Probably fine to watch once when it gets on streaming. I don't know that I'd stampede to the theater to go see it again, but I had an afternoon off. So
is this The Rock's chance to be at least nominated for an Oscar?
In a different field, in a different season, maybe, because it's clearly, I think he did a fantastic job. And I would put him up. Let's put it this way. If he was nominated, I wouldn't be upset about it. I think there's going to be more in the field that surpasses him, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're about to get in that drop of
Sure.
October to December films that are all vehicles for particular actors.
Yeah. In fact, this being the first one of those, right? Like this being, because this is clearly he's trying to prove that he's a real actor.
Well, I think the PTA movie coming out last week, that was clearly supposed to be a vehicle for those actors. And I think you're going to see more of that as we get closer to Christmas.
All right. Well, that's the thing. Don't run out to see the movie. Wait till it gets streaming. All right. Well, thank you all for streaming this episode of Off Day with Ballpark Nation. We'll be back a little bit later on the week to actually preview Texas A&M in Florida and the Red River Shootout, because we don't call it the rivalry on this show. First of all, it's impossible to say Red River rivalry. I mean, it's all right. For Andy, I'm Jim. This has been Off Day with Ballpark Nation.